Hello, everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for this week's episode of So Chatty, episode number, I gotta check my notes for that, episode 33. It's our thoughts about fabric buying. We thought we'd talk about our latest haul that we just got yesterday from Ultimate Sewing. And we have talked about how we choose fabrics before, but we thought we'd go into a little bit more detail, talk about things like about price. Do we buy by collection or is it by project? And we're going to look at it from the 2 points of view. From my point of view as a quilter, from Walter's point of view as a sewist. And isn't that a fancy term? Sewist.
I don't consider myself a sewist. But
Well, why? What do you consider to be a sewist?
I don't know. I think I'd have to do more projects than I don't do enough projects.
How about seamstress?
No.
No, I don't want to be seamstress. No, I
How
don't
about
think
mistress. No.
mistress. Well, yeah, that goes without saying. Okay, so yesterday, as I said, we made a little trip to Ultimate Sewing. We had not planned to go to Ultimate Sewing yesterday, but it seems there was a line of fabric that came in, and they're always very helpful at Ultimate Sewing. I had ordered something called luster something. I forget what it's called. I saw this. Actually, it's a couple of months ago or so, and I really liked it, and I was showing it to Shirley online, and she ordered some of it, and I bought several meters of different colors in the line, and but she didn't get the whole line in. Actually, there was quite a bit in the whole line, so that was fine, and I haven't used it yet. It's on my shelf somewhere, and so one of the employees there, Lynn, she called me up and she says, "We got the luster, whatever it's called, in." And I went, "Yeah, well, you had that in a few months ago." And I got, "Yeah, but we got another." Now, she told me there was a couple, she thought, of different colors that came in. And I thought, well, okay, I'll get some. And I said, well, I'll take 2 meters of each. And then she looked at something and says, oh, no, there's only one that's in. Well, I've already committed myself, right? And I do like that line of fabric. So I said, okay, we'll be down in a bit. So she cut me 2 meters. And so I said to Walter on our way down, well, I could use some backing fabric, like wide back fabric, which we'll talk about in a bit. Oh, I hear them over there digging up things. Yeah, a lot of construction going on here in people's homes improvement. Anyways, hopefully you can't hear that. I don't think you can. Anyways, we went over and I was looking at the wide back fabric, so I bought some of that. And then Shirley said, she was giving, what was it, 25% off if you had an end of a bolt kind of a thing,
20%.
or 20% off. So if I saw anything else I wanted there, Shirley's always the great little salesperson. And of course, you don't have to tell me twice. Ooh, sale, yeah. So I did want a little bit more Christmas fabric. Why, you may ask? I thought I was done with Christmas projects. Well, I might be starting another Christmas project. And so I found a couple of short bolts kind of a thing, and I thought, well, yeah, there wasn't much on them, like under 2 meters, I think, on both of them, but I figured, well, fine, I'd get 20% off that, so I took that. And then I saw a few other things. Then I decided, yeah, I need a whole bolt of white background fabric. I like to have it on hand, because I do use it actually quite a bit. So I was looking for one, and yeah, so I bought a whole bolt, and the whole bolt is, I think the one I got had 15.5 meters on it, and Shirley will give you some off if you buy a whole.
It was about 25%.
Yeah, I think so. I got out of that. So, bargain, I guess. So after I bought all that stuff,
And considering her fabrics tend to be cheaper in most places.
yeah, we're going to talk about that. But my whole haul came to $500. $500.08 and change. Yeah, so I went in for like 2 meters of a fabric and came out with a whole lot more. But Walter went in too, but we'll talk about his in a minute. So we're going to show you. So I took pictures of my haul, and so I'm just going to switch my camera around so you can see it. So here we go. Here's what I bought. It doesn't look like $500 worth, right? But it really is, because this is wide back, and wide back is 108 inches long. So it's basically, what, 3 times, well, not quite 3 times, 2.5 times wider from salvage to salvage than your regular fabric. And I use that. I prefer that for backing my quilts because I don't have to piece it. And I don't like piecing the backing unless I'm doing something that's really fancy, you know, using up orphan blocks or something like that with it. In here, this is my bolt of white. It does have a slight pattern to it. You can't see in the video. I also bought this. This was on the end of a bolt, and it'll serve as backing too. And I kind of like the squiggles. When I buy whites, I usually try to get kind of a neutral pattern in them. These are the two Christmas ones that I bought, and they were end of the bolt as well.
Well, didn't you also buy like a wide back red up there too?
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Those are all my wide backs. Actually, I have more pictures here. Let's go. So this is the one that I came in for that I got called about. Luster something. I can't think. It's got two. Luster Bright or something like that. I don't think that's quite right, but it's Luster something. And wait, do you have some of that?
Yeah, I bought some of that.
Oh, what's it say on your salvage?
I don't know. I have to pull it apart to take a look myself.
Well, anyways, I really like this line of fabric, and I like that color. And in real life, it has a little bit deeper bluey kind of shade to it than what's showing up here. These are the two Christmas ones I bought, and I bought fairly kind of neutral because in my mind, I'm thinking these is more background. And I'm working on a project right now where these are going to come in handy. And these are the two backing fabrics I already talked about, or background fabrics, not backing fabrics, background fabrics. And then these are the wide back ones. And that's a K facet. This is a Northcott Stonehenge, actually. And I don't know what this one was called. But I bought, there's quite a bit here because I usually buy, when I buy backing fabric, couldn't find the name.
No, because I think this is a batik and it doesn't have it on there.
Oh, is it a batik?
Aha, yeah, it is.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a batik. It doesn't look like a batik.
Yeah, I know. I didn't think it was a batik either until after I bought it.
Well,
And one, yeah, the only thing I don't find of the batiks is they're a little stiffer than the.
that's what I like about
Cotton
batiks,
fabric.
actually, when making a quilt. But as I was saying, I think this one, I almost bought what was left on the roll, but there was 5.
Actually, I'm not sure if does your arrow show up on?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, thanks for the interruption. Get me right off my train of thought here. Yeah, stick to the script. This, I almost bought the end of the bolt, but it was about 5.5 meters. And this is more expensive. We'll talk about that later than buying regular fabric, of course, because it's not quite double, but it's close. Actually, this one might have been. This one was $30 a meter. These other two were about 24. And that was a K facet. And I usually buy 3 meters. That usually does me for most of the quilts that I make, with enough left over that I can have like about a 10-inch overhang all the way around the quilt when I put it on Lucy with that. Now, we're going to come back to this in a bit, so I don't want to jump ahead there, but let's go back to us. So that's what I bought. That was my big haul. Walter got a haul too, except he didn't spend...
Well, I didn't. I went in there with no intention of buying any kind of fabric at all. So, and I ended up, because he got this blue stuff that, and then I thought, well, you know what, might not look too bad as for a shirt.
Actually, I think it made a really nice looking shirt.
It's a really nice blue, and it's got black background, which is, blue. I love the blue colors, and I like the contrast with the black. So, I thought that looked kind of nice. And one of the things I do when I choose fabric for shirts is I want a fabric that's not necessarily the same as something that you can buy off the rack, sort of like what he's wearing over there.
This is not one of Walter's shirts,
No,
obviously.
so
this one is.
So yeah, you know, so like if for a summery shirt, I like something maybe a little bit brighter in color. But for a long sleeve shirt, I like something a little bit more subdued. Having said that, this is not subdued. I'd probably make this into a long sleeve shirt. And
for me,
so for what I've been using pretty much for shirts is quilting cotton. And one of the reasons I choose quilting cotton, one is that it's actually a good fabric. to use for a shirt, and it has a variety of patterns. And I've looked at shirting material online, and a lot of like the stores in the area here don't really sell shirting material. I would have to go into Toronto or order it online. And any of the shirting fabrics I've seen online, I haven't seen too many that I have like, you know, vibrant patterns to them or something like that, or different patterns. A lot of them are more like checks or stripes, or more like formal dress type shirt material. And I don't really, I mean, I may make a formal dress shirt, but I don't really wear those right now. And I'm looking for something more unique.
Unique.
Yeah. So, and so one of the things I use for my judgment is I look at stuff that sort of jumps out at me and says, make me into a shirt.
Oh, I thought it jumps off the shelf and goes booga booga.
Now, the other fabric I bought 2 meters. I usually buy 3 meters of a fabric. For a short sleeve shirt, I only need about 2.5. And for a long sleeve shirt, I need more like 2.75 meters. So I like having the extra fabric in case I make a mistake when I'm cutting it out.
You make mistakes?
To date, I haven't made too many mistakes, but I like to have that. Now, I bought this fabric a couple of weeks ago. It's not that exciting because it looks kind of almost like a check, but she had it at the end of a bolt, so I got 20% off. And there's only 2 meters here, and I have an additional 2 meters, so that would be enough, more than enough to make a shirt, provided I have enough length for. You need certain length for the sleeves and everything else. So this is almost like a something that would really coordinate well with a pair of jeans or something, because it's almost a jeans-like color. And so it kind of, there's something about it that sort of appeals to me. So
it also makes a beautiful quilt, because I made a quilt out of that line of fabric, and that's in it, and it was called City Nights.
Yeah.
And it's City Nights by Northcott, isn't it?
It's very soft too. It would make a very nice shirt out of that.
Very soft. Yes, it is very soft.
Right. So that's actually what I bought, and I bought 2 meters of this and 3 meters of the other stuff, and I think including tax it came to $59, which is pretty good.
$559. Yeah. Okay. Now, just before we move on here, a couple of things that came to my mind while Walter was talking about that. First of all, those 2 fabrics he just showed you, I told you that the last one he showed, I have made a quilt using that fabric, and actually other coordinating pieces that went with it. And then that first fabric he has, if he makes a shirt out of it, I can make a coordinating quilt out of it, and I could have a shirt to match a quilt. Yeah, like I'm going to wear a quilt on the street. But I kind of wish that when I was teaching, when I was working, I wish you had been making shirts then, because you were pointing out this shirt and a lot of checks. Well, I had a kid say to me one day in class, I taught high school level, right? I said, "Sir, why is it that every shirt you wear has checks or plaids in it?" And I said, "That's because I buy all my shirts at one store called Mark's Work Warehouse, which is what they have to choose from."
Yeah, so, like a lot of the men's shirts that you buy in the store have either a stripe, pinstripe, or a stripe, or they have a small check or a large check.
There's really not a lot of variety in men's shirts.
No.
That, like, formal dress shirts are what Walter just said, with a pinstripe or a solid, something like that. And casual shirts tend to be this kind of pattern with it. You don't get a lot of other ones unless you buy a summery shirt, which you might be able to buy one of those tropical kind of things. But I mean, those are a little limited as to where you want to wear them. But whereas when you have the quilting cotton, you make it, look at this shirt. You won't find that on a rack.
No.
With it. You know, these manufacturers of shirts ought to get on the bandwagon here. They're missing out on a whole lot of things.
Well, the other part of the problem is there's a lot of guys that are very conservative and won't wear stuff like that.
Yeah, but I think you're talking about men in our age group. I think the younger guys today,
the younger guys are probably
they kind of like the other colors too. I mean, every time we go anywhere and we're wearing one of your shirts and the whole bit, people always ask, "Where'd you get that? That's a really nice shirt." And I say, "Oh, my seamstress made it for me right here." It's my sewist.
Well, the other shirt that I'm making right now is part of that same lineup as the blue that I'm in the process of making this shirt, and this is a coordinating fabric for this, right? But actually, I don't really like the two to go together. So, and so this shirt I'm making now is a very similar pattern to that. Well, very similar colors, and that's it's very soft as well.
And if you take a look here, here's my box set of those same fabrics. One of everything in that line. There's one he showed you, and there's the one he's showing you right now. These are fat quarters in this box, but that's the whole line of all of those fabrics. So, you know, he could pick any of these, kind of, not the fat quarters are too small, but I do have some yardage of some of these too. Of course, you said you'd like to buy 3 meters, and you usually need, what, 2.5 meters?
Well, actually, for the long sleeve shirt, it's closer to 2 3/4 meters.
So I don't usually buy chunks of fabric that big, except in backing, as I already said. So you have another pile behind you.
Yeah, I have a bunch of other stuff here. See, I'll use quilting cotton for shirts. So I have different ones here. And basically, I just buy it for fabric that jumps out at me in the store. And I have these that I haven't made into anything yet, but there's one here that's a quilting cotton that I bought, and it's a very subdued, but it's like a, what do you call it, pattern?
It looks like a paisley.
It's like a paisley pattern, but it's very subdued colors and that, and I think that would make a good winter type shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And now this one is brighter. Actually, this is actually another one that I would like to use. It's check, but it's for a long sleeve shirt. But the checks are multicolored.
It almost vibrates.
Which is kind of like, I mean, you can buy check shirts like that, but you don't really see check shirts that are multicolored. So,
but what I'm saying is that one's got it has movement in it, because when you hold it up and you look at it, it's like an optical illusion. It almost vibrates.
Yeah, it's a very neat. It kind of jumped out at me. Now I've got one that I haven't used that I was going to make short sleeve shirt. Now this is more vibrant. This is again blues and that, and I haven't made that into a shirt yet, obviously. But it's another one that's stuck out at me. I like the geometric patterns,
and I have a whole bunch of those from that collection in different colorways because I really like it, and I haven't made it into anything yet.
Now there's another type of quilting cotton I made. It's something very plain like this, and why I buy this is was half price. It was cheap, and I'll use it for the linings for my pockets.
And when you say it's cheap, it's not cheap fabric. It was cheap and
inexpensive. It was like half the price. It was about $7 a meter. It was wasn't really a remnant. Actually, it came off a bolt, but it was. I use this kind of stuff for the inside of bags or inside of pockets for things like pants and stuff like that. So that's what I like, that kind of fabric for that. Now, should I keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay.
You're on a roll.
So then I'll have fabric that I need for a specific garment. Like I made this sweatshirt. So I needed both sweatshirt material, which I fleece, a type of fleece material. And I also needed coordinating jersey fabric for it too. So like the jersey fabric matches the fleece. And
well, that's a hoodie, isn't it?
It's a hoodie. So I had to get fabric that had both colors for like the exterior pockets here are jersey, and the full jacket is made out of fleece.
Aren't you going to make me one of those?
Yeah, I still have enough for that.
Weren't you going to make it without the hood?
Yeah, actually I will. And then
I don't like hoods.
I have more plain fabric that I will buy to make things like pants. This is a it's kind of wrinkly right now, but this is a stretch cotton twill that I made a pair of pants out of, which is great material to make for shorts or for pants. It's a nice thin material. It washes well,
Stretches.
stretches a little
I
bit.
need that.
And then I
Especially
have
you got
a
big
plain cotton twill that I made my jean jacket out of. And it's just a regular cotton twill. It's a 10-ounce weight, I believe. And works really well as a jean jacket. And of course, with the plain ones, it's just color you look after, you're not really pattern. So two more fabrics I'm going to show you is these two really jumped out at me because I want to make a sweatshirt-like jacket. So I've got one with skulls on it. I'm partial to blacks and blues, so this is skulls on it, and it's got a teal and a green and a purple and black, but skulls, and I thought that would make a really cool jacket.
Ooh.
And
Wow, heavy metal. Whoa.
that is actually French terry, and this is actually French terry as well, and it's a nice blue color, and I think it would make a neat jacket too.
How do you know it's French terry? Because it goes Le Terry.
Yeah. So I mean, I bought that fabric, but I haven't made anything out of it yet. But you know, I like the pattern.
What's it feel like? Ooh, so
I like
soft.
the pattern and the colors, and it just, you know, it's one of those things that you see and you think, well, if I don't buy it now, it's not going to be there again next time I want to buy something for a project like that.
So basically, you buy your fabric according to what you're going to be making. If you're going to make a shirt, you'll buy one type of fabric. If you're making a hoodie or a sweatshirt, it's going to come out of another fabric and that. So a lot of different choices and decisions you have to make, whereas I don't have to make as many decisions. However, talking about the feel of fabric, now I used to think that all quilting cotton, and I'm getting out of the picture here, I'm going to slide over, you're crowding me. Camera hog. I used to think all quilting cotton basically felt the same. Well, they're changing it up. For a long time, it probably did, with the exception of batiks. Batiks are a little stiffer feeling. I love working with batiks because most of the time, not always, but most of the time, they don't fray when you're working with them, which is kind of nice, and they're crisp. They're nice and crisp. I like that about them. But yesterday when we were in Ultimate Sewing, one of the fabrics that I bought, I think it was the K Facet one that I bought as backing, Shirley said to me, oh, she loved the feel of this. And I hadn't really felt it. And I said, yeah, actually, it felt silky. So that's something. I don't know what they're putting into them or how they're doing them to make them feel that way. But they do feel, this particular one felt very silky. I don't know if it's going to give me a problem when I'm working with it. It may be more slippery. I don't know if that's going to make a difference when you make a quilt or not. I mean, with a garment, if your fabric's really slippery, I think you have more problems.
I pre-wash all my fabrics, right? Because for shrinkage, for clothing. So, like, okay, but when you pre-wash it, the fabric feels different. Like, I mean, if you, like, take this fabric.
Well, the sizing comes out of it.
Right? And then this is the same fabric that I know you haven't pre-washed.
Yeah,
so.
No, it's softer when you pre-wash.
Yeah.
But that's because there's sizing in the fabric to keep it crisp. And that was one of the things we kind of jumped ahead here, but that's okay. About what do we do with our fabric to prepare our fabric for what we're making? I don't do anything except I'll iron it. If it's when you're cutting fabric, and because when you're doing quilts, of course, you're cutting a lot of long pieces, like long rectangles or strips or squares and that. And if your fabric's been folded, it will have a crease in it. And if you lay that down and you don't iron out the crease, you will get a wow if you're doing, for example, a long strip. Say you're going from selvage to selvage with the fabric and you're cutting 2.5-inch strips and you have this fold in the middle. Well, when you cut that, it will, with the pressure of your ruler on top of it, it is going to slide slightly. You may not even notice it sliding, but when you open it up, the strip, you're going to have this little wow in it, which you don't want. So I didn't used to really press mine. If they look like, okay, that's okay, they just got one fold in it. And then I discovered, yeah, that can give you some problems. But I do not pre-wash my fabrics. And there's two schools of thought about that in the quilting world. One school is, yes, you must, because one, if your fabric's going to bleed, then you want it to bleed before you put it into a quilt, then wash the quilt and it bleeds into your quilt. And if you've got some lighter parts of your quilt, it could, end up staining them or whatever. And the other point is that it'll shrink. Well, that's the old quilting cottons. The new fabrics, for the most part, you got to know your brands. You got to know, something you've used many times before and you know it's reliable. But they don't really shrink that much, and they don't bleed. Except for blacks and reds. You've got to be careful with those. They can bleed. So, you're taking your chances. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about aftercare as well when it comes to bleeding. So what are you going to say?
I was saying I wash all my fabrics first, because even if there's a slight bit of shrinkage when you're doing a shirt and you're doing like a button band, if it shrinks after you throw it in the washing machine, even if it shrinks a tiny bit, it'll all begin to buckle. So you don't really want that on a shirt. Now, if it's on a quilt, it doesn't really matter that much if it shrinks a little bit. So
no. And usually when you've done a quilt, and I wash my quilts after I've quilted them, when they're completely finished, then I wash them. So hopefully all of your fabrics will shrink equally. And if they don't, it's probably not a big problem. But if you're mixing fabric types, let's say you're mixing quilting cotton with flannel, or there's some wool in it or something like that, then you might want to pre-wash, is from what I've heard. I have yet to use flannel in a quilt. I have some. Actually, I bought it by mistake. A whole bunch of fat quarters I thought I was getting a real deal on, and I didn't realize they were flannel. But I haven't yet used them in a quilt. So, it's up to your personal preferences, whatever you want. The problem with pre-washing, if you're going to quilt, is the fraying. Like, look, you pre-washed that one, right?
yeah.
Well,
I leave the fraying on there, so I know it's been pre-washed.
Oh, okay. See, the fraying. And as it is, when you're cutting your fabric for quilts, you can still get some fraying. Now, there is a rule, and I never follow it, and I probably should. I think you're supposed to cut, now, is it across the grain or with the grain, to avoid some fraying? I think it's with the grain, but parallel to the grain. I'm not sure. Or parallel to the...
I'm not sure with the fraying on it.
I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there that will tell me exactly what
I know. I know when I'm doing a pattern, the pattern will tell you whether to cut it with the grain or not.
See, that's not something sometimes in a quilting pattern you'll get that, but not very. The ones I've done, I think there's only one that I ever had that with, and I tend to ignore it. I usually, when I cut my fabrics, if I have to cut large strips and that, I take my fabric and I fold it in half, selvage to selvage. So, because if I leave it with the fabric, it'll be 42 to 44 inches. And nobody has a ruler that goes that long. Or most people don't have a cutting space that big. So you've got to double it over so you can get it, especially in a stripology ruler. That's one that cuts, has lines for the strips. I use that all the time. I love that ruler. It's an expensive ruler. It's a good investment, though, if you're looking to cut strips. But I fold it in half. So
yeah, but if you're cutting a shirt top out, you have to have the full length of the shirt top out to be able to cut it.
Yeah, I know. So that's the difference there. So you got to lay it out. But what I was saying about that is, so I'm usually cutting from selvage to selvage when I'm cutting large pieces. And that means that if you're cutting it selvage to selvage, you're going
against the grain.
Yeah, you're going against the grain. So
Yeah,
I
so
don't know.
normally when I do a shirt, most patterns will say you have to cut on the green line going like this,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't you don't want the green line doesn't stretch as much, so you don't
Yeah.
want your vertical to stretch, but it's okay if your horizontal stretches.
Okay, so you see when you cut, if you cut parallel to the selvage, you're
You're
going
cutting
going with the grain.
right.
Yeah, and that because there's no stretch. There's less
There's
stretch
less stretch. Yeah.
with it. So yeah. And this is stuff I probably should take into consideration when I'm cutting fabric for my quilts, but you want to know something? I don't think it makes as much difference when you're doing a quilt as it does when you're cutting a garment fabric. I don't think it's quite as important.
And then you get into things
Unless
like,
you're doing stuff on the bias.
if you're going things like terry and jersey, they sometimes stretch the same amant going both ways.
And you realize when you hold things down there, no one can see.
Okay, some like
you have this problem with the camera.
yeah. Well, anyway,
Camera's up here.
Like,
It's like my eyes are up
with
here.
jersey or terry,
Yeah.
it stretches. Well, actually, this one stretches more this way and less that way.
So we talked about we usually buy fabric according to the project, but Walter already said he picks out fabrics according to if it jumps out at him, and I'm kind of the same way. And if you take a look, I'll just show you here. We're going to talk about storage in a minute, but I'm just going to switch over to a picture right here of my fabric stash. This is just part of it, and I store it on bookshelves, and I fold it this way so it'll fit. But you can see the variety here I have in it. Now I try to keep the same types together as you can see in this area here. And that one that Walter showed you, the blue one, that's this one in a different colorway. And here's that one, and these four are all part of that same line, the same
as this one.
as, well, just a second, the same as that one.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No,
That's the luster. No, it was
the
this one up here.
I don't have any of those.
Yeah,
ones.
you do. No, I thought you did.
No, I don't have any of those ones.
You pulled one up here that I thought for sure that you.
That's not part of that. I have no other one.
Yeah, you do. You showed it. You had it here. What did you do? Did you eat it?
I showed you this one.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I thought it was that line. Never mind. I stand corrected. Anyways, so
I've never owned any of that fairy dust one or whatever it's called.
oh yeah, that's what it's called, fairy dust. Yeah, or fairy. No, is it fairy dust? I don't know, something. Anyways, so I buy fabric in the same way that Walter does. If it jumps out at me, I want it, and that's when they always ask me, "What are you going to do with this?" And I said, "I don't know. It's pretty."
And I tend to be heavy on the blues. I tend not to buy browns, blacks, blues. I might go green, or multicolored, but I won't go pinks. Forget it. I might do purple.
I have bought some that have a little pink tinge in it, but I'd use them very sparingly. I love blues. I love purples. Teals are okay as well. I don't tend to go too much into oranges and yellows, although I will buy some of them if the pattern is something that I really like. I stay away from greens quite a bit. I don't hate green. It's just for some reason green doesn't jump out at me. I like nice, bright, bold colors. I very seldom buy anything in a pastel range. I don't like pastels because to me, pastels are washed out. You make something out of pastels and it looks like it's been around for years and like you've washed it 100,000 times and it's faded. That's my impression. I know lots and lots of people love pastels, especially the ladies. The ladies love pastels.
Baby quilts or something.
Yeah, things like that. The softer tones and things like that, which is fine. It's just not.
Yeah, I'm
for
not
me.
into the softer tones either. I like contrast.
Yeah. So, the other thing too that when I buy fabrics, I'm just going to switch here so you can see another picture while we talk. Here's some more of my fabrics, and you can see here, I like things with a shimmer to them, but not too much shimmer. These ones I really think are quite elegant that are up here on this side. I have not figured out what I'm going to use them for yet. And then, of course, I do have some with Wild Designs. This is the line. Here it is.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the one that
That's
you
one.
had.
And actually, I have some of the other ones that you have too. I just didn't bring them downstairs. Well, you don't have to.
Well, just a second here. Okay,
Which is
so
this
that
one.
and then these ones here are all part of that same line. I
Yeah.
can't remember what it was called, but it's something. Then I got some of these. I forgot I had these. Geometrics. They're kind of spacey zodiac kind of a thing. I do have a few that are more into the grunge area as well. I don't use those a lot. There's some more of those ones in that luster line that you bought the blue in. That's what I was looking for. See, they have purple and whatnot in there too. But yeah, I buy them for the color and the pattern. If it jumps out at me, I have to have it. There was one there I saw yesterday. I kind of think I should have bought a couple of meters of it because it had butterflies on it. That one that had the coordinating pinky. What I didn't like the coordinating.
Yeah, the
fabric.
coordinating one had little fairies in it.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
No,
I don't
didn't
like
the
dealing.
fairies.
We don't like fairies.
Not that kind
fairies.
anyway.
No. Never mind. So yeah, I didn't buy that. But that's how I buy my fabric, and I'll buy collections. As you've seen, some of the ones that all go together. If I see one in a collection, I'll look for a few of the others for a couple of reasons. One, it means I really like the collection. I'd like to have a variety of colors in it, or colorways. But the other thing is, too, they're usually made so they all coordinate together, too. So if you're going to make a quilt and you want to design it yourself, or even if you do it from a pattern, you can't go wrong with all the same fabrics from a collection, because usually they always coordinate. That's why I like to buy pre-cuts, because pre-cuts usually come coordinated, like charm packs, jelly rolls, things like that. You don't have any of those decisions, though, because you don't make a shirt out of a jelly roll.
No, I don't.
Although,
But
if you-
I did that shirt that I'm making now. I am using coordinating fabrics. with
Yeah,
it, so.
okay. But when you coordinated the fabrics for that, you look more or less for the color for coordination. It wasn't like you bought them all from the collection, did you?
No, not that wouldn't really work for me.
But could you? Like, you could.
Yeah, you could.
Like, if you took some of these, like, quilting cottons, like, for example, if you used a couple of these in one, like you're making a shirt into your time
you
about
could.
you could do that.
I could change that up.
Might be
Yeah,
a
like,
little wild, but
I
mean,
could take. Actually, I have some of that Juicy Juice fabric that I was going to
Oh,
buy.
yeah.
Make a quilt out of at one point in time, but I only have like a meter of each. I was thinking of making a shirt that has like different panel, like one panel, one color, another panel, another color, and the sleeves different colors.
of course, too, we could make our own original fabric from fabric that we have with strips, make a huge, great big 3-meter piece. Of course, mind you, you're going to have a lot of seams, though. And I was thinking then quilt it, but that would be better for something like a type of jacket
Yeah.
kind of a thing. It wouldn't be good for a shirt.
Yeah, I'm
because-
supposed to be doing a jacket at some point in time, and we're going to be doing some quilting on it.
Oh, yeah? Well, put it on your domestic machine.
Yeah.
Well, because he won't be showing you on a long arm, because he doesn't have a
No.
long arm. And I don't know if he could do it on a long arm. Maybe he could. Okay, so anyways, that's kind of how we pick out our fabrics for us. But I want to go back to pricing, because prices have changed quite a bit during COVID. That's your foot kicking it. We're very lucky, very fortunate with Ultimate Sewing. She used to sell all of her fabrics at $15 a meter, which is really good. And we're talking Canadian prices, okay? I'm sure some of you Americans are probably turning over, going, oh my God, you pay that much. Yeah, well, actually, we're paying on the lighter side of that. Now, Shirley has changed her prices slightly, but she prides herself on trying to keep her prices as low as possible. And so if you buy what she calls, I saw a thing on her sales desk when we were checking out that had prices on it. If you bought something like designer fabrics, like Tim Holtz, what were the other ones she had on there? Tula Pink, there was a K Facet, that kind of stuff. Those she used to sell at about the same price as the regular fabrics, $15 a meter. Now that price has gone up to 17 a meter, which is still not bad.
Which is still really good because there's a lot of places around here that sell just your typical fabric for
21,
about 20,
21.
21, 22,
Yeah.
23 I've seen.
And somebody wrote me a note a couple of weeks ago, left a comment on one of my videos saying that out west, Western Canada, they were paying $26 a meter for the same stuff I get with Shirley at 15.
Well, also it depends on where they're buying it because I know at the F store, Fabricland,
Yeah.
they're charging upwards. They're charging $26 to $29 a meter.
Yeah, and their stuff, at least in quilting cotton, is shit.
Because they have a big sale on now online. The Fabricville is their online store, and 50% off their quilting cotton, and it's $15 for 50% off. Regular price 29 something.
And it isn't nice stuff that they have. Because I've looked at it in the stores before. And
Yeah,
it's
well, they
not.
do have some of the stuff that the North got.
Yeah.
But not very much of it. A lot of it is brands that are not really the greatest quality.
Well,
and
that,
they tend to fray really bad.
and the patterns that are in it, things are, pardon the comparison here, but are old lady fabrics. They look like something that was on
Well,
somebody's
they also
wall
look like a lot of
30 years
times
ago.
it looks like, yeah, they've been hanging around for a long
Yeah.
time.
Well, literally, you can pick them up and blow the dust off them with it. But we call it the F store. We don't like it, but sometimes you have to. Well, I don't usually, but he has to.
Oh, yeah, because there's some things I can't get in a quilting store
Yeah.
that I need to use for garments. So,
Now they have a membership that you pay what, $20 for?
it's 15. Actually, it's 20 if you buy it the first year, and the renewal is 15. And it's kind of a gimmick. It's sort of like a Michael's coupon, right? Because if you have the card, you get 50% off all their notions, right? Well, their notions are twice the price of the else sells.
Yeah.
So you're just buying it for the same price as you would anywhere else. But the problem is that a lot of the quilting shops don't carry stuff for garment making. So there's some things that I have to get for garment making that I have to go there. Or if I want to buy a fabric that a quilting store doesn't sell, I might look for it at Fabricland or their online stores, Fabricville. I have purchased stuff there because I can't seem to get it anywhere else. And or I just can't find it at any other stores somewhere. And sometimes they have a sale on and it's not too bad. But I tend to avoid it.
I mean, there was one time when I got a real bargain in their notions. They had a huge ruler, square ruler. It was those are 20-inch?
I think it was 24 by
20,
24.
24 by 24?
It might be 20 by 20 or 24 by 20.
Well, huge square ruler. Those are expensive no matter where you buy them, if you can find them. And they had it on for, it was 50% off their price, but there was an additional amount came off, and I got it for a really good price. I think its regular price was $110, and I think I got it for $45.
Yeah, I think it was around 40 or 45.
But that was, I think they were discontinuing having those in the store, and that's why they were getting rid of it. So I lucked out on the day that we were there. Actually, Walter bought it for me that day. So it cost me nothing, so it was even better bargain. Yeah, $0. Yeah, wow. But the other thing about prices, though, and one reason why we like Ultimate Sewing, so if you're around this area, do look up Ultimate Sewing, okay? She's online too, ultimatesewing.com. It is .com. Yeah, she's not a .ca. She's a .com. Check out because she does ship both in Canada and the United States, and her shipping rates are pretty reasonable from what I hear, especially to the States. But she has, if you buy a whole bolt, you get $25 off the bolt, or 25% off the bolt. I told you about the end of the bolts that she was giving 20% off. She runs sales all the time, but we bought our sewing machines from her as well. And because we did, we get all the time for life 10% off almost anything we buy in the store every time we buy the store. There's only a couple of things that you don't get that discount on. Well, you don't get it on another sewing machine. But I mean, 10% is not to be scoffed at.
I mean, we're already getting a really good price on the fabric to begin with.
Yeah.
Plus, we get another 10% off.
Well, 10% off on 50. She's regular price of $15 on most of her quilting cottons. So that's $1.50 off a meter. So that puts it down to what? $12.50. No, $13.50. You're going to be pretty hard pressed to find as a regular price that on, a meter of quilting fabric. So the other thing we thought we would talk about too is why fabric prices have changed. Well, there is the logical reason, and then there's the gouge reason, I would say. And I think it has more to do with gouging. COVID. Everything has gone up since COVID, hasn't it? We hear all the same excuses. Prices have gone up because there's shipping problems. And there are shipping problems.
The other thing is the oil prices has gone up, and so it costs more to ship.
Yeah, and all this kind of stuff, and blah, 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 blah. And you know that always businesses, no matter whether they're small or large, are taking advantage of this economic situation at the time, and they will gouge you. Another reason why we like Shirley. Shirley is not gouging us. But I have noticed online, when I look at quilting stores online, some of them are definitely gouging. Now,
well, like that one that we know that's in the area, and I looked at some of their stuff, and it was like $23 a meter. Yeah, which is pretty big jump.
This is a quilt store north of us, which I go to on a rare occasion because they have a nice selection of fabrics, something a little different from what Shirley carries. And you'll find that if you shop around quilt stores, they're not all the same. They have different kinds of things depending on the owner, what they like. And that's fine. That gives you variety in shopping. But their prices have always been higher than Shirley's, but boy, they've gone up about $3 more a meter in the last year or so. Since the last time that I was there, before this last time I went there, I went, whoa, sticker shock. Like a fat quarter. Their fat quarters were $5.50 or $5.75. Shirley charges $3.50, $3.75. for a fat quarter of fabric. However, this place said, but if you bought 5 or more, then you'd get them for $5 a piece. Well, that's still more than what Shirley sells. And I mean, they aren't anything special. They're just fat quarters. I mean, and they're ones that they got to the end of the roll kind of a thing, and they've cut them themselves and whatnot. But yeah, I think that's gouging. Yeah, I know prices are going up on everything, and it's the way of life, and but anyways, the other thing too is here's something that's interesting about shipping. So Shirley is a salesperson for Janome. Her sewing machines are Janome, and she carries a lot of Janomes. Like, one thing about Shirley's supply, I don't know where she keeps them all, but
she has
I know she has a location somewhere off-site where she keeps all her sewing machines and stuff like that. But 9 times out of 10, if you go in and you want a sewing machine and you pick one you want, you'll get it right then and there. She's got the demos out there, but she's not selling them, the demos. She gets you one brand new in a box, all sealed, the whole bit. She has them in stock. But she sent out an email yesterday to everybody, and I guess there was a cargo ship out in the ocean, caught fire.
Yeah, out in the Pacific, off the coast of Vancouver.
Yeah, and caught fire. And apparently there was a lot of Janome products on that ship, which meant sewing machines and notions and parts and things like that. Shirley wasn't sure how that was going to affect her supply yet, because Janome hadn't told them. But yeah, isn't that something? So there you go. Now, you can bet that Janome, if that will affect the price on their sewing machines. So, and that'll all trickle down. to the mom and pop stores like Shirley's. So yeah, so there is that affects prices, but we know that making a quilt, well, sewing period, is not a cheap hobby. There was a day and age when people used to sew clothes because it was cheaper. And now today, not necessarily.
Mind you, you're getting a more unique product than if you would to buy off the rack type of thing.
Well, what I'm saying is if there are those people who say I should learn how to sew because, meaning they want to learn how to sew because I could make some my own outfits and I make them a lot cheaper when I buy in a store. That may have been true at one point in time, but I don't think so anymore.
There's a lady in my sewing group. She seemed to think that making it herself she would save some money doing that, right? And she was looking at it, she goes, "Oh my God," she says, these clothes are costing me more than what if I would buy them off the rack, right? And we're going, yeah, but can you buy what you're making off the rack? So,
not only that, you have control of the quality.
Yeah.
And everything, and the design to a certain extent, if you're, depending on what level you're at.
To custom make the sizing.
And custom fit it.
Yeah, you. And, if there's a design feature that you want to do that is on different shirts, like, if you go to some of the more expensive shops and stuff like that, you can buy very unique looking shirts and things like that, or clothing in general, in a very high end store. So there's nothing stopping you from making something that's high end.
Yeah.
So.
And it's with quilts too. The people who do not quilt, who go into a store and they see a quilt, like a quilt store. I'm not talking about going to your Walmart and looking at what they call quilts, because those aren't quilts. Those are cheap polyester bedspreads on it. But they go in and they go, wow.
Bed in a bag.
Yeah, bed in a bag. They go into a quilt store, a real quilt store, and see quilts for sale, and they see a price sticker on there of $500, $600, $700, $800, over $1,000 for it, and they go, wow. They think they can go in and they can buy them for like $100 or something. No, you can't, and they don't get it. They don't understand, one, how much that fabric cost that went into that quilt, and the fact is it's not mass produced. Somebody sewed it. They didn't sew it by hand necessarily. They sewed it on a sewing machine, but same diff. Really,
it still takes hours.
It takes hours of labor
to do that. Like even like one of these shirts, it can easily, it was right from doing the beginning pattern to putting the buttons on at the end, can take 10 to 15 hours.
Yeah. So that's why I say never give a quilt away that you have made to someone who doesn't understand what's involved in making a quilt, who don't appreciate it. It's not worth it. Give them something from Walmart, okay? It's like I buy greeting cards at the dollar store. When I used to make cards myself, they only went to people I knew who appreciated that. Everybody else got a dollar store card because you know what happens with cards. And,
you look at them once and throw them out.
That's right. And, there are people who gift quilts and come and visit and find the quilt is all torn up and the dog's laying on it because it became a dog's bed. So, most of the people watching this anyways would understand that and wouldn't ever do that kind of thing.
Unless you specifically made it for a dog's bed. But.
Well, yeah, you could do that,
But I mean, if you made it thinking that they were going to use it for something else.
Yeah.
Then, or as a keepsake or something, and then they end up, oh, well, dog doesn't have anything to lay on, so I'll just...
But when you give a quilt away, somebody told me this once, it's no longer yours. They can do whatever they want with it. So get over it. You made it. You gave it as a gift. Let go. Okay, so that takes us to talking a little bit about, and we've already kind of touched on this. We talked about what we do in preparation to make whatever we're making with our fabric to prep it. Walter preps his more than I prep mine. But what do we do after the project is done? Well, do you wash your shirts after they are done, or do you wait, they get worn, and then they get washed?
They get worn and then they get washed.
Okay. Why is that? Is there a reason?
No.
Okay. Would there be any reason you can think of that you might want to wash a garment that you've made before you give it to somebody or before you wear it?
Well, maybe if I made a mistake and put glue on something somewhere.
Okay. I was thinking about how the fabric might feel because we've already talked about that.
Well, I've already pre-washed the fabrics.
So I guess that doesn't matter. Well, with a quilt, I didn't used to wash my quilts after I made them because I was afraid to. I was afraid something would pull apart because, I was learning how to quilt to start with at that point, or my colors would bleed into it. And so I was afraid, desperately afraid. And I'm over that now. Now, as soon as I finish a quilt, I immediately throw it in the washing machine. I throw it in on cold setting. I add just a touch of laundry detergent and a little bit of fabric softener. And I only wash, I put it on express wash. So on our machine, express wash is 26 minutes. And then I throw it in the dryer. Thing is, what I got over with is there's so much stitching in a quilt, especially when you've quilted it, those suckers are never going to come apart. Now, you might have a seam problem, and that means you're an idiot. Because I already, if you saw this week's Idiot Quilter, I already pointed that out. But that was a quilt I made almost 2 years ago, and I wasn't as careful on some of my longer seams, and sometimes you don't realize it, but your seam bends. And remember what I said about cutting? Getting the wow? Well, that will present you with a problem if you try to adjust. And I used to do this. You try to adjust for that. Oh, wow, that. Well, I'll just sort of go around over here and that, and I'll sort of straighten it as I go in the stitching. No, because what happens is you got 2 layers of fabric, and one of those seams you can't see as you're going down, and it can be pulled slightly closer to the edge of the fabric. And when you're finished the quilt top, everything looks secure. But then you quilt it and you wash it, and the seam can pull apart. And then you're just screwed. Unless you're a really good hand sewer and you can do invisible mending, and I can't, then you are screwed. Plus, it's annoying because you've already got a boo-boo in your quilt, and if you're going to give it to somebody or something like that, if you spend all that time, do you want to give somebody a quilt with a boo-boo? There are ways to hide boo-boos. And I know, ask me how I know. But yeah, but now I'm very, very secure on that. I check all my seams after I've sewn a seam just to make sure I haven't had a little slip up. And so they're all very secure, and I wash them. Now, what about color bleed? Well, I'm going to be talking about this in more detail next week on the Idiot Quilter, little demo. But I have something called color catchers. Now, these are not designed exclusively for quilters. They're designed for anybody who's washing clothes, and you might be mixing colors when you wash, and you might have something in there that might bleed. A new garment or something like that. So you throw a couple of these into your washing machine, and they suck the color out. That bleeds out. They are fantastic. And you'll know how much bleed you have in your fabrics when you're finished washing them and you pull those sheets out. I've had some that have come out black. But none of that color transferred over to the lighter parts of fabric in my quilt. So I will not wash a quilt without using those. In fact, I just stocked up on a couple of boxes of them. They're not that expensive. You can usually get them in the cleaning laundry aisle of your grocery store. There's different names, but Shout makes a brand. Dr. Beekman makes a brand. All that kind of stuff. Phone's ringing. I'll be back. So we were just interrupted for a second for a lovely call from someone trying to sell me something in a hotel, and it was a recorded message, scam call. Anyways, I was talking about the color catchers. Mine have come out black. They haven't stained. They're great. Buy them in the grocery store. I paid $4.99 for 30 of these sheets. You can buy them on Amazon. I don't recommend it because I looked them up on Amazon, and they were about 4 times the price on Amazon. So yeah,
I think our Walmart sells them as well.
Yeah.
So that's Canadian Walmart. So I'm assuming American Walmart probably sells them too.
Probably more readily available in the American markets or Walmarts. But anyways, that's what I do with a quilt when I'm done with it. And we know what Walter does with it. Nothing with this. So that takes us to, just very quickly, because we've kind of talked about this before on other programs, storage. Now, you already saw how I store my fabric. It's on the shelves, and I have it folded up like this. But if you look down below on this shelf, you'll see I have baskets. These are usually smaller pieces that don't fold up as readily, and I just put them in these baskets and I label them. And there's more, and down here I have drawers full of fat quarters. And I have other drawers with pre-cuts and smaller pieces as well. I have a lot of fabric. That's why I had this week, if you haven't seen it already, the Idiot Quilter Presents Musings, which is a new segment that I have on here, new series. And I talked about the fact that I am a fabric addict. I should have called it fabric whore, because really I am that. I will pleasure you for fabric, yeah, whenever you want. Maybe that's gone a little too far. So, how do you store your fabric, Walter? I know the answer to that. On the floor?
No, I've got some in boxes and I've got some in drawers, but my drawers are overflowing. So,
Oh, you're just bragging now.
I have to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of it. So.
Yeah. I made some suggestions, but you don't like my suggestions.
What?
Because,
Throw it out?
No, never throw it out. No.
Oh, you mean put cupboards up?
Yeah.
Well, I might do that.
Okay, whatever. If you see his sewing room, and we have given you glimpses of it before, I don't know, it's like walking through a hoarder's house. I mean, you're walking between the piles.
It's not that bad.
I don't even enter that room.
Okay.
And plus, I'm picking up most of his fabric on our floor, on our carpet, because he doesn't vacuum in there on a regular basis, and it's all sticks to his socks. And you know where he's been in the house, follow the crumb trail of fabric. Yeah. But I digress. So, that brings us to the last thing. Can you ever have too much fabric? Yes and no. Can you have too much fabric?
Yeah. I should stop buying it and use it up more. So
Yeah, but then you go in and there's new pretty stuff all the time.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem.
I have slowed down in buying fabric because I do have so much of it. You've already seen pictures of the fabric, and I know there's more of you out there that will look at that and laugh and go, "That's nothing." You've got rooms. I know one lady sent me a comment one time saying that she had, since her kids have all grown up, got married, don't live in the house anymore, they had a 4-bedroom house. 3 bedrooms are nothing but lined with shelving, that industrial shelving kind of thing, and it's all boxes of fabric that she has. That may be overkill. But you always say, well, I'm not going to buy any more fabric until I use up what I've got. Yeah, it doesn't happen. And manufacturers know that. I mean, they come out with new lines 4 times a year, practically, or 2 times a year, and you see it and you got to have it.
Or the other problem is that you end up doing a project and you need a certain kind of fabric and you just don't have that fabric.
Yeah, you just don't have that perfect fabric to go with that. You have 100 different fabrics, but nothing seems to work. And then you go in to buy one, and you come out with 2, 3, 4 more because there's something new you hadn't seen before. That's what happened to me yesterday. I said I went in to get 2 meters of this specific fabric. I came out $500 later with more fabric. But I was doing retail therapy. It made me feel good. And yeah, I don't resent spending the money on it at all. I will use it someday. Because he who dies with the most fabric wins. And when you're gone, it'll probably all end up in landfill, unless you've got somebody in your family who appreciates quilting or fabric or sewing like you do. So anyways, that's what we want to talk to today about. I know some of these things we have touched upon in other episodes of So Chatty or on the Idiot Quilter. However, if you have a memory like we do, you won't remember that. So it's all new to you, right? That's the best part about having all-timers. New people every day. So anyways, yeah, nothing else to talk about, I think, on that. I think we've exhausted the topic, so that's it for this week. So thanks for joining us. No idea what we're going to talk about next week, but I'm sure we'll come up with something. And we'll see you later. Go out and organize your stash. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.